Share 100. Why nosy people come to meetings. I was at a meeting in Nice where the small talk before the meeting was on the topic of people who, when they came in at a London breakfast meeting, had "Stay away from me" written on their forehead. One person said, "Ah, that's nothing. My sponsor who used to go to that same breakfast meeting had a scar around his head and neck where someone had tried to decapitate him when he was drinking. That really scared people away from him." He apparently had been halfway decapitated, assumed dead, put into a bag, and dumped in a river by London's Heathrow Airport, woken up by the cold water, got out of the bag, got sober, and then years later, I don't know if it was in sobriety or not, he went and he found the guy who had cut his head and throat and proceeded to hack the man's hand off with a machete. So then I shared my Montreal car bombing story, share 37, and we started the meeting. That night's topic was why we keep coming back. I shared how I am simply nosy, and that's my greatest motivator for making meetings. Sometimes there are visitors and I get to meet them, and if there are no visitors, at least I showed up. I know that I showed up to see if there were any. There's always something you don't want to miss. So I shared at the meeting that it was like hearing this tidbit about decapitation and macheteing, which keeps me coming back on account of nosiness. Plus, another member of the group had shown up that night with big Clark Kent glasses on, his first night of wearing them. He'd always previously had more subtle, thinner wire-rim glasses. We all gave a big woo when he walked in with them on. I was there at the first meeting where he wore the new glasses, staying current or being nosy. I shared that I first learnt this from a guy in Florida who was the first to use the term nosy. He was a real card, and he wore suspenders and had a deep North Carolina accent with 30 years or something of sobriety. I always liked this guy and what he had to say. But once he was qualifying up on a stage in front of a lot of people and shared that his children played a role in his getting out of himself. I was up in front and shared first and identified with his qualification, saying that although I hadn't been a single parent in sobriety, I had had cats and dogs to look after. My pointer kept me focused on not giving advice to others, nor on playing God. Anyway, as I spoke, his eyes wandered off to other people around the room, making me feel not listened to, even slightly laughed at, when I was really trying to go way out on a limb and disclose something intimate about myself. To make matters worse, when the subsequent people shared, regardless of what they said or if they were identifying with his qualification, he looked right at them the whole time they spoke. I later confronted him about this, and he shrugged it off. So now, because of my hurt feelings and vulnerability, I had a resentment about the messenger who had brought me the message of nosiness. What should I do? Should I dislike the nosiness thing now? Should I think of the axiom that it's always the person in the meeting who you hate the most who is going to say the most pertinent thing you need to hear that day? Well, time passed, and I even got a slightly bigger resentment when I overheard him talking at lunch in the AA clubhouse about going to the firing range. And then I thought, what kind of sober pleasure is derived from shooting targets? Anyway, one day, while with my Cocker Spaniel, I bumped into him and his dog. I never knew he had a dog. It was a cute little terrier. I think the two dogs played a little bit. Ever since, he has always asked me with a smile I had never seen before, "How are you, and how is your Cocker Spaniel?" Maybe this was God's Maybe this was God talking through him, saying, don't try to equate dogs with children. Just be yourself, and you'll get recognition. So this opened up a whole new layer of how the messenger appeared in my eyes. And now, without being polluted by resentment, I remember the nosiness theory in good, unobstructed light, with a fond memory of the messenger. And the moral of the story: you might want to take your dog for a walk, because you never know how you are going to get over a resentment.